Hey Navajo Nighthawks, this is Module 5, Lesson 22. In this lesson, we are going to be working on adding a fraction less than 1 to, or subtracting a fraction less than 1 from a whole number. So that could look like 3 minus 2/4, 1 plus 3/3, or 2/3. So we're going to see what does that look like when we have a whole number in a fraction. So our objective is I will be able to add a fraction less than 1 to, or subtract a fraction less than 1 from a whole number using decomposition and visual models. Okay, so for example, if I had 2 meters plus 5 centimeters, we would read that as 2 meters 5 centimeters. If I had 2 hours plus 5 minutes, that would be 2 hours and 5 minutes. So if I had 2 plus 1/2, this would become 2 and 1/2. Okay, and if we were to use that visual model, I could show, well, I've got 2 and say this is our third one, but I only have half of that. Right, so I have 1, 2, plus that 1/2, and 1/2. 2 and 1/2. Okay, pretty basic, pretty straightforward. The addition is much easier. The subtraction is where we get a little bit complicated. So for example, if I had 3 plus 2/3, that would become 3 and 2/3. You really just mush them together when we're adding. Okay, so if we wanted to show this as a tape diagram, I could show here, each of these are worth 1. So this is my 3, and I'm going to add 2/3. There's my 2/3. When I add all those together, I have 3 and 2/3. Okay? All right, so when we add a whole number plus a fraction, you just read them together. 3 plus 2/3 equals 3 and 2/3. Like I said, the adding's pretty easy. The subtraction is where it can get a little bit tricky, because we're going to have to do some converting to solve that. But today we're going to see what does that look like when we have use a tape diagram. Okay, so our first one is 3 minus 1/4. So I'm going to draw that tape diagram and represent that 3. Okay, so each of these are worth 1. There's 1, 2, 3. I'm taking away 1/4. I'm going to convert one of those into fourths. Okay, so here's my 3, but I have one of them into fourths, and I'm going to take one of those away. So now I have 2 and 1, 2, 3/4. So 3 minus 1/4 becomes 2 and 1. Oh, excuse me, that's what we took away. 2 and 3/4. So really what we're doing when we're drawing this tape diagram is we're borrowing from that whole, or converting it into fourths so we can take away a little bit easier. But if you think about it, if I took 1/4 away, one of these wholes is going to have 1/4 less. So that's why it's 2 and 3/4. Okay? All right, let's do another one with subtraction. So we're going to do 3 minus 2/3. So I'm going to draw. And if you want to draw them separate, sometimes it messes with our eyes if we draw it and break it into 3, because we're like, wait a second, is that thirds or is that 3 wholes? Well, I'm trying to fit them all on there. Okay, they're not perfect, but you see what I'm trying to do. So each of these are going to be worth 1. So this is 1, 1, and 1. Okay? We're taking away 2 thirds. So I'm going to break one of those into thirds. And I'm taking away 2. 1, 2. So this is now worth 1/3. This is worth 1. And this is worth 1. So our answer is going to become 2 and 1/3. 2 and 1/3. Okay? So like I said, if you want to draw whatever you're starting with separately as their own tape diagram, that's totally fine. It kind of helps me with my thought process, because then I don't think that I have one broken into thirds or fourths, whatever we're working with. Okay, so our next one is going to be 5 minus 1/4. For this, I'm going to use a number bond to kind of help you see what that can look like. Okay, so if I'm starting with 5, I'm going to take away 1/4. Well, I'm going to turn one of these holes into fourths. So I know that 5 is equal to 4, and if I have 4/4, I know that's equal to 1 whole. So 4 and 4 plus 4/4 would equal 5. And now I can easily see that and say, well, if I take away 1/4, 4 minus 1 gives me 3. 3/4 plus that 4. So 5 minus 1/4 would be 4 and 3/4. So we took 1 away from the 5, converted it into fourths. That left us with 4. And then I took that 1/4 away from my fractional part, from the fourths. Okay? 4/4 minus 1/4 gave me 3/4, and then my 4 stayed in my answer. Okay, let's do one more using that concept. So let's do 9 minus 5/12. So I'm going to use my number bond. So I've got 9, and if I take 1 away and convert it into 12ths, that's going to give me 12/12. 9 minus 1 is going to leave me with 8. Okay, so now I can subtract my fractional part from my fraction. 12, my denominator stays the same. Okay, stays as 12. 12 minus 5 leaves us with 7. And I still have that 8 over here. So my final answer is going to be 8 and 7/12. Okay, we started with 9. We took one of those away and converted it back into 12ths, which left us with 8. 12 minus 5 gave us 7/12. Our denominator stays the same. 8 is still part of our answer, so our answer is 8 and 7/12. Okay, let's see. I feel like we should do one more for good measure. Let's do 7 minus 3/9. 7 minus 3/9. Okay, so if you want to draw it off right here, you could do that too. So say I have my 7, I'm working with 9ths. So if I take one of those, convert it into 9ths, that's going to leave me with 6. Okay, so 6 is going to stay in my answer. If you want to plug that right into your answer, and then do 9 minus 3 gives me 6/9. 7 minus 3/9 is 6 and 6/9. Okay, one more. I know. I want to make sure you guys are really understanding it. The more you see it, the more you're going to understand it. So let's do 6 minus 5/8. 6 minus 5/8. So if I convert one of these to eighths, I'm going to have 8/8, which is going to leave me with 5. I'm going to take that 5, plug it right into my answer, because that's not going anywhere. And then I take 8 minus 5. My denominator is going to stay 8. 8 minus 5 gives me 3. So my answer, 6 minus 5/8, is 5 3/8. All right, you guys, I hope that wasn't too complicated. And just to really review that first one, when we're adding, say I was adding this, if I had 6 plus 5/8, that's the easier part of this, right? This just becomes 6 5/8. Okay, the addition part's pretty easy. You just mush them together. Subtraction, we have to do a little bit more, but hopefully it didn't make or confuse you too much. But like I said on the last video, next week we'll be in person, so we'll get to really work on this together even more. All right, you guys, good job today, and we will see you guys soon.